I've had in my life of mostly collegiate related experiences, lessons in what you would call character building. Being as I was set back in character building by childhood experiences that were unworthy of a person like me, of anybody for that matter. These are important lessons to me. I think you would agree that freedom of speech, whether we like it or not, affects us even if we're very tolerant. Other people might have reasons for not being as tolerant of us. It happens that you might express freely your feelings about another person, and the consequence being that it gets around that you feel that way, and your status is either elevated or diminished depending on what you said and the relative social status of the person you said it about. This can't be avoided. When it comes to law enforcement, no one can force anybody to accept and like you beyond if you don't impose on them physically. You are welcome in mutually public space. They can't push you out of public space. Nobody owns the sidewalk. If they do, it's a legal infringement. You can say what you like, but nobody can make you be liked or disliked for what you say. It, de- it depends on what you say, who you say it to, and how they feel about it. Now, you might think I'm falling in with the idea that any criticism is destructive. And we're right to be wary of the idea that any criticism is destructive. Criticism can be meant to improve another person. It can be a form of compliment. It means that someone got involved enough in understanding what you're doing to make a contribution based on their concern to draw your attention to something. I'm not lecturing anybody by this. What I'm getting to is an expression of my disappointment in the US government. It's a lot easier for Americans to lock down our feelings about Russia now that the Ukraine has been invaded. Now, I'm not blaming anybody for feeling that way. It's punishing to see what's happening. Truly grueling. Sad. But why were our hearts already locked down to Russia? That's what I don't understand. Russia had opened up. There seems to have been a problem in Ukraine as a result of hesitancy on the part of Yanukovych to join the European Union. Well, Manchin didn't want climate change legislation at first, but he saw the sense of it and he came around. What was so wrong with just waiting, try to figure out why there was hesitancy? Is it so necessary to presume that the reasons for hesitancy concerning Russia being encroached upon more and more by former adversaries who were still in a state of lockdown about them to be something that maybe should be addressed? I wondered what was going on when John Towers said ever more menacing Soviet Union after they took down the Berlin Wall. This isn't to say that I'm not on record as having some things to say about Russia. But I think also, there's a knee-jerk tendency to want to not be called communist by Clint Eastwood. I mean, nobody wants to wake up and read the paper. Clint Eastwood called you a communist. So you look at somebody who most people don't realize how intelligent Lavrov and Putin are. They're not afraid of free speech. I'm sorry that there's evidence that they don't grant it to others, that they're overly hostile to the inputs of others. But there is such a thing as destructive criticism. People can be attacking them and marginalized for it. Um, I've heard that they're very cruel to dissenters. I don't know. I think it's sad that Russia has a legacy like that. But there's cultural differences. I have never been there. I know that the savagery that was visited on Russia bears no resemblance to America's um, experience of World War II. It's, and this, even Putin admits that this, you know, you have to take some of the Stalin stuff with a grain of salt. So people are always going on about, oh, you'll get cornered, they'll just trick you. People do that. That is not different in the United States. People have lied to my face so many times in the United States, it's surreal. So I'm just saying, it's, it's a better world where you look at the possibility that when somebody criticizes you, they mean well. I'm not saying there's no such thing as destructive criticism. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's such a thing as constructive criticism, and it can be character building. You have to say thank you for your point of view. I'll reflect on that. And be honest with yourself. Don't just feel put down. Nobody can do everything. For God's sakes, nobody can do everything. We have to have more of a live reputation if we want people like China and India and Russia to get with the necessary changes that the whole world needs to take on. Look at the kids. They need to know. They need to be taught. They need a hub, online hub of ongoing scholarship about how they can reform their relationship with ecology. They need infrastructural change, meta conception beyond intercepting the climate reform, and making it possible for us to coexist with the planet Earth. People talk about the trouble we have coexisting with Russia and China. Whether we can't coexist with planet Earth. They're going to have Trumpy turn nuke in the West. He's going to say, oh my God, here comes a typhoon. Zook it. You know, it's not helpful. It's not helpful to depend on people like that. It's not helpful. That's destructive praise when somebody says you're good because you think like that. It's destructive praise. It's better to be constructively criticized than productive, praised destructively. You have to ask yourself, is somebody playing to me to make me stupid? You have to ask yourself that. Playing to your ego to make you stupid. So, I mean, the more involved the criticism, the higher the compliment was saying. I wouldn't want to go to Russia and have people say, oh, it's a sign that he supports the war in the Ukraine. No, no. I would want to go to Russia under a promise to the U.S. government that if they felt they did something nasty, there would be no reprisal. It would be between me and them because I don't want to set off berserk ideas about them holding me captive against my will or anything like that. Anyway, I'm just being Bilbo. You know that scene he says, oh, I know what you want. I started this business. You want me to finish it. And they all assure him, Bilbo, you're over the hill. There's nothing you can do. But we know that in your heart you would if you could. I'd do anything to try to be helpful in this sad situation. I really would. I don't want to play to the egological stuff. I would prefer to just be left alone, quite honestly. I don't think it's smart to grandstand about anything. You're just a person. They say there's important people. Well, everybody's important. Yeah, everybody's important. I believe everybody's important. The cultures can be very different. You don't know what they are if you don't live in them. It's foolish to have a lockdown about something you don't know nothing about. It's foolish. It's foolish to have a lockdown about it. Maybe this would have happened no matter what we did. Maybe we're dealing with someone who just fight happy. But we've got all kinds of baggage when it comes to being fight happy. All kinds of baggage. It's better not to lock down, to look at the prospects as realistic. Creative prospects for reform and change are around us all the time. We just don't know how to do it. We don't know how to find it. We don't know how to understand it. There's only a handful of people in the world who understand how to handle bees. They're called beekeepers. We need more people like that in our educational system, not just so that people can handle bees, but so that they know how not to be destructive of bees. I mean, it's one thing to be a handler and a beekeeper, and it's another to be conscientious gardener. All schools should be eco school reforms so that people can understand conscientious gardening. I've said that all my life. I don't understand why, when it takes flames over Africa to get people to think about it. So get to what really is important, which is mentoring and making possible, you know, developmental processes so that a student can say, well, I don't want to be a beekeeper, but I'm glad that I can be a responsible gardener. I understand enough about responsible gardening now that I can be a responsible gardener. That's not going to keep them from doing accounting. It's not going to make them a neoliberal. I mean, stop tagging people with dumb-headed ideas and bumper stickers is my take on it all.